I hate when I'm right. I hate when I'm right. Yes. Some unfortunate news today with the broadcast of episode 3 of NieR Automata 1.1a. It's delayed. Yay, A1 Pictures doesn't know how to actually schedule the production of an anime, that we can't get this figured out and, I don't know, make it earlier. That way you're not at the wire producing it. But like I said, I'm sad that I'm right. With the massive amount of anime that was being produced in the winter anime season, I was assuming that, yes, a lot of shows would end up getting delayed at some point. So this is number 4. The 4th show that is now being delayed from the winter season, and it sucks. I hate that it's a show that I'm actually interested in, and especially with this 3rd episode, I am just like, what? What's going on? Yoko Taro, what is going on with your show? And now I'll either have to play the game or wait, and we don't even know how long it's going to take. They said they're going to be rebroadcasting the 1st through the 3rd episode, so that's at least a 4-week delay before we possibly will get episode 4, but they're basically saying episode 4, we'll let you guys know. So it could just be, again, after they rebroadcast, or it's just an indefinite until maybe another season. So once again, they are pulling the COVID card. So if you want to believe that or not, it's up to you. I just think it's because, one, they suck at actually scheduling the production of the show and they waited too late to actually produce it. And 2, there's a shortage of animators, like across the entire world, because most of the stuff is getting exported to be produced elsewhere, or at least animated elsewhere. And there's problems happening in certain countries. So anyways, that aside, my disappointment at the delay aside, really, really cool episode. And again, like I said earlier, I don't know. I did make a mistake in the last episode. I called the Resistance humans, and everybody's like, wait, those are androids. And I'm like, they never said that, so why are you guys spoiling it for me? And yes, this episode pretty much confirmed it. Yes, the Resistance are androids. They're the old models. And apparently, according to essentially what 9S is insinuating, and then eventually the commander herself pretty much clarifies, is yes, the Resistance apparently is being used. These old androids are essentially being used as almost like a buffer. They're using them as the front line, the shield that protects them from the virus. What that virus is, I don't know. But yeah, they're just pawns. And even though the Resistance is always, I guess even from Lily's perspective and most everybody else's perspective, I mean, even Jakusas, I'm going to say that Jakusas, I like Japanese pronounce it because obviously I don't want to say it on YouTube, but Jakusas even was like, oh, we sent out a signal for them to send reinforcements? Who the heck did that? They don't expect the Yora to come and help them. They don't expect the Council to really send any help. They're just there as shields, as pawns to hold the front line, essentially. So it's kind of rough. Honestly, what the commander themselves said and confirmed sucks. But again, that technically makes sense to what she's doing. Our goal is to do what the Council wants. It's not our goal to be upset because there's androids down there being left to die. Even though these 2 in the command center are like, oh, that's terrible. She's like, it doesn't matter. That's not our job. Our job is to follow what they tell us to do. Our goal is for the sake of humanity. If a bunch of them die, and I think it's really kind of already hitting heavy on this message, this overall message, which again kind of harkens back to that first scene that we had in the 1st episode, is this idea that I'm already running the theory that is humanity even still alive, question mark? Have they died away, and just the Yora and everybody is kind of working on the remnants of what they wanted, which was to reclaim the Earth, and that everything is kind of just stuck in this ongoing war of destruction. The androids, the Yora, the machine life forms, they're all just pawns in this ongoing war that just continues and continues. But they eventually make it to the Resistance camp, which we get an introduction to apparently the equipment person. I'm guessing it's a shop in the game. Like randomly out of nowhere, a bunch of shopkeepers come up and say, hey, how's it going? Want to buy our wares? I'm like, okay, maybe they're the shop owners. And then they point out specifically 9S's backpack, which I was kind of interested in that. Like, what's a secret in it? I'm wondering if it's specifically the joke at the end, which apparently is one of the bad ends, is that there's a acorn in 9S's backpack, and he asks Tubi if they want to ride, if she wants to ride an animal, and so they summon these moose, and then they jump on them, and they start riding them, and then apparently demolish the Yora army or something. If that's the secret, and that's the only thing in his bag, then that's kind of weird. I don't know, 9S is super quirky. I don't know, he's like the most well, besides Jakusas, that person is way wild compared to 9S, but 9S has been the most kind of wild character. But no, Jakusa is like super weird, like shows up, everything's about science, wants to like dismantle 9S when they realize that they're Yora. just because he wants to see how it runs. And then he goes to go to the pods, and the pods are like detecting a threat, recommending to destroy or something like that. But no, Jakusas apparently was there to give a reconnaissance of what was happening with these machine life forms that are kind of building up in the desert. So 2B and 9S are like, oh, we'll help you with that. That's perfectly fine. We're assisting you. And they go to leave to go there. I love the trip to it because, like, Jakusa has to destroy this wall, and as they're running through it, the pods get left behind. And you can, the pods are like predicting hindrance to the mission due to loss of assisting units. I get a kick out of the random, like, phrases the pods say that sound like they're cleverly wrote in the way that they're kind of speaking logical terms as a robot, but they're actually, it's funny the way what they're actually saying. I don't know if that's an ongoing thing in the actual game or not. But no, this is where things get weird, because as they go into the desert itself, they end up running into a big old pack of these machine life forms, and one of them, 9S, hacks inside of it, is asking to save them, and at the same time they're attacking. And so 9S is like, you're obviously attacking while you're saying that, so you're literally just mimicking humans. You're just grabbing speech patterns and randomizing it. You don't necessarily want to be saved. But as he goes inside of it, he runs into this door, and going into that door ends up showing this big, huge kingdom where you have these robot, like, king and queen, and everybody's praising it. I don't know if the comment that he made when he shows up in that vision is going to be something that'll come up later, something like Rule 904 or something like that, but I'll take note of it. But it attacks 9S, 9S attacks it, and he gets back out of it. So, obviously, 9S is a little bit spooked by the idea this thing is, I don't know, again, envisioning some sort of kingdom of machines, unless he's seen something else just before he snapped out of it. But no, eventually they arrive at the housing complex, which apparently the machines went out and gathered housing complexes and brought them to this location. Like, I thought it was just going to be a ruins of some housing complexes, but no, they're insinuating that they literally picked up a bunch of housing complexes and moved them to this location just to create, again, it seems like they're mimicking humans, mimicking a lifestyle of the humans, which is housing complexes. But amongst all that stuff, just like scattered remains of androids and the liaison, which look very surprisingly like 2B. So I'm wondering if that was the number 2, or again, that Lily knows 2B before she became a Yora. I don't know. That's still up in the air. But yes, again, things get more crazy as they end up finding a machine life form that looked like, I don't know, moss is growing on it. They keep talking about evolution, that these things are evolving and they're changing, and I kind of only assumed that evolution was going to be kept strictly to the idea that they're speaking like humans, their speech patterns and stuff like that they have a language of humans now. But it seems like it's sort of implying that they're changing physically. And again, it shows one of these things laying down and something's growing off of it. I don't know if it's morphing itself or just they're applying stuff on top of it to make it look like it's changing. But that all sort of, I guess, makes sense the moment they go down underground, which we'll get into in a minute. But, they find a big old pile of them there saying, whether they're making greetings, they're talking about stop being cruel, everyone is dead, kill me, it's painful, glad. It just like the most random phrase, which, yes, 9S was mentioning earlier, it just almost seems like they're spouting random phrases that they've learned in books and stuff. But yes, the underground scene. The underground scene. They fall down on the ground. There's a whole bunch of these there's a whole bunch of these machine life forms making pillars to make this underground cave, and there's a whole bunch of them laying around and yelling random things, and they're doing things. They're bumping into each other and saying things like love and hug and I love your booba, and yeah, basically mimicking human reproduction, which is weird, becoming one. And one was rocking a cradle. So it's like they're all trying to figure out how to become parents, how to become essentially human in the idea of reproduction itself, which, yes, technically leads to what seems to be them making birth of something. As one of them shows up and says, destroy them, can't continue, and they run up there and they crack open this big old egg of them, and some dude falls out. Sephiroth falls out. And the entire time 9S is pointing out the fact that they're evolving and they need to be destroyed. Specifically, he tells 2B, don't listen to them, as if they're saying something that she is not supposed to hear, something that will confuse her. He seems to be aware of what they're saying, that it's something bad, but he's specifically telling 2B not to listen to them. not to listen to them say things like hug and become one and booba and stuff, which is kind of interesting. The weird thing is that comes from this is that 9S has been reprimanded for showing emotion by 2B. And now it almost seems the opposite effect, that 2B is listening to something that 9S believes that she shouldn't hear because it might be possibly restricted. It's kind of weird back and forth, but in the end, what it kind of turns into is, yes, this Sephiroth guy showing up and 9S claiming that he is evolving and that they have to destroy it, and they stab it, and another Sephiroth climbs out of it, and then it carries the other Sephiroth, and then it gets chased away. And then, yes, that's it. That's episode 3, and we're not getting another episode anytime soon. So it's like, could we have delayed this episode? This should have been the episode you delay. Just restart from episode 1 right here, because that's a bad cliffhanger to leave it on. A1 Pictures, Yoko Taro, everybody involved. Really fascinating. And I think the big thing that really is kind of grabbing my attention is, what is this concept of the machines themselves evolving? Obviously, with the previous episode, it was a lot of emphasis on the idea of the machines themselves discovering knowledge and the knowledge of mankind. And obviously, what would come from that knowledge is the aspect of parents and children and reproduction and all that kind of stuff, which again was sort of hinted at in the previous episode. And seemingly the desire of that reproduction brings them to all come together and try to figure out how it works. And apparently they figured it out. Now, explain to me how physical metal coming together somehow creates a physical entity. I mean, it technically came out as a robot, but it was able to form skin and blood and textures on itself. So is that just an image? Is that real? That's the question mark. Is it just artificial tissue that it's able to kind of seep out and make some sort of human form? I guess the big kind of question mark that kind of comes from that, again, going back to my previous theory on the idea that there's going to be some sort of similarity to the origins between the androids and the machine life forms, that they all came from the same location. Like I said in the last episode, that whole error message that one machine life form had was similar to what 2B was telling 9S about. You're not allowed to have emotions. So it would make sense that eventually, just like the androids eventually made the Yora, I'm assuming the androids made the Yora. It could have been the human council. Maybe on the opposite side, the machine life forms eventually got to this point where they can create their own androids. So thus you have there not being much difference between the two sides. I don't know. Unfortunately, but we'll have a wait before we could find out more, or at least me finding out more, unless I get some sort of massive break, which currently is not happening because I'm pretty much doing stuff 24/7 for the channel right now. Maybe if I get a break at some point, maybe I'll jump in the game, but probably not. We'll see whenever the show decides to come back. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that it's only a 4-week delay and we'll get more by the end of the season. But for now, that's it. I guess that's it for my weekly impressions for NieR Automata 1.1a. I hope you guys enjoyed my coverage of it until now. Yeah, let me know down in the comments down below what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody does, and y'all take care.